I'm working through the finer details of my new home brewery, and I just finished installing this new Komos kegerator. During the process, I opened a few of my taps and learned I had been putting off some important maintenance work. So, in this video, we're talking about kegerator maintenance. Here are 5 things you can do right now to maintain your kegerator setup. I already mentioned the first thing on the list: disassemble your taps. Now, obviously, I regularly clean my lines with line cleaner, and that does a lot to clean the taps as well. But when you disassemble the taps, you can see what's going on inside the tap. In my case, I found some broken parts that needed to be replaced. These taps are called Nuka taps, and each one has 2 of these little red rings inside. Out of the 3 taps that I disassembled, I found that 4 out of the 6 red rings were broken and needed to be replaced. So, I hopped onto morebeer.com and found this Nuka tap seal kit. This comes with every O-ring and seal found in either version of the Nuka tap, the regular or the flow control, and it even comes with a replacement shuttle. No matter what types of taps you're using, disassembling them every couple months will help you to see what's going on inside. From there, you can clean it up really nicely and replace any broken or missing parts. For the regular Nuka tap, the shuttle goes in first. Then the first red seal goes in on top. Now I can insert the handle followed by another red seal and a flat black O-ring. Now on goes the cap, and I'll finish up by replacing the O-rings at the back of the tap and under the nozzle. The flow control version is a little more complicated, but still fairly simple to take apart, replace the seals, and put back together. For hard to reach O-rings, it might be helpful to have one of these O-ring pickers or a similar tool. Tap maintenance, really important. And even more important than the taps are the lines in your kegerator. For me, I like to replace my lines every 6 to 12 months depending on how much I've been using the kegerator. The less you use a kegerator, the more often you should probably replace the lines. It's counterintuitive, but it's because the less you use a kegerator, the longer beer is sitting stagnant in the lines, and that can impart flavor, aroma, color, and that's just the beginning. So, clean your lines regularly, like every week, and change your lines at least once a year. And if you're still using vinyl lines in your kegerator, I highly suggest swapping them out for Ava barrier lines that will stay cleaner and last longer. The next thing you need to maintain are your keg connections. In my kegerator, I use ball lock connections, and they're super easy to disassemble and clean. Unscrew the top cap, and inside you should find 4 small parts. And the piece that's most likely to be missing is the O-ring. If it is, make sure you replace it. And while you have your ball lock connection disassembled, give it a deep clean. I like to use a thin brush like this one on the main housing and then soak everything in Star San before reassembling. The best way I've found is to stack the 4 small internal pieces together and then insert the whole assembly into the housing. If you've never disassembled your keg connections, be ready to find some old crusty hops and everything else in there. These things need to be cleaned before and after every use. Now, it's time to talk about keg maintenance. Kegs are composed of many different parts, and just like everything else, it's important to disassemble them regularly to make sure those parts are still operating properly and to clean them. In my case, I can see right away that this gas post O-ring is dry and cracking, so it needs to be replaced. To make sure I had plenty of small parts, I picked up this first aid kit for ball lock kegs. Not only does it have the O-ring I need, but it has everything else I might need as well. Check every component on the kegerator now, and you won't run into problems when there's precious beer inside. Another thing I'm going to replace is the lid seal. These yellow seals are relatively new to the market, and they're supposed to let in less oxygen than the traditional seals. This first aid kit is the best. There's gas and liquid posts, poppets and springs, PRVs, and even the little feet that go on the lid. Definitely a handy kit to have on hand. Okay, so far we've talked about taps, lines, connections, and kegs. One more thing that can help you maintain a clean and well-operating kegerator is check valves. A check valve is a very simple little device that allows, in this case, CO2 gas to go one way, and it won't let anything flow back in the other direction. In your kegerator, that means that no matter what, beer will never flow up your gas lines and potentially ruin your CO2 regulator. Personally, I've never had beer get that far, but I have had beer in my gas lines. It sticks to the lines, and it's really annoying to then have to disassemble everything and clean it out. And now that I'm talking this through, I realize I should probably move the check valves to the other end of the lines just before the keg connections. That would protect the lines, the manifold, and the regulator. Having a kegerator is great, but it's not something you can set up and forget about. Kegerators require frequent and regular maintenance to keep them running smoothly and pouring great tasting beers. Hopefully these 5 things inspire you to put some work into your own kegerator setup. If you're following the Shed Brewery build series, here's an update on where we're at. Thanks to you, I feel like I have a good plan for the water situation, but there's still some work to be done before it's finished. I also need to work on my fermentation station and my packaging station. Unfortunately, I'm running into some issues getting the can filler that I want, so if you have any ideas for can fillers, let me know in the comments. After that, it's all about the finishing touches like lighting, and this project will be complete. My name's Dan, this is Hops and Gnarly. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you again soon.